Hey guys, welcome to our first ever debate, which is one of the biggest Marvel debates ever. Can you guess what it is? It is Team Iron Man versus Team Captain America. This debate is based on the events from Avengers Age of Ultron and Captain America Civil War. Supporting Team Iron Man is Grace and Emily, and Ellie and I will be arguing for Captain America. Before starting, a little warning, this debate will have spoilers, so if you haven't fully caught up with the MCU movies, then stop here, watch them, and come back. So let's get started.
First point is that not all superheroes are good. So in Avengers Age of Ultron, we see Scarlet Witch as a villain. And then in WandaVision, she's literally abusing her powers just for a happy ever after. Not saying that she doesn't deserve a happy ever after, but the harm she did and stuff wasn't good. And at the end of it as well, we don't even know, is she a good person or not? Because it kind of doesn't seem like it. So point is that everybody needs rules and regulations for like public safety, for happiness, to make sure that everybody's safe. And that is basically what the Sokovia Accords were. They were a way to make sure that everybody was safe.
Yes, that's true. They were all put down so that everything could be safe and regulated. But they were also taking away the Avengers who were put in place as heroes. They weren't there to do anything bad on purpose. In WandaVision, Wanda didn't she didn't make it on purpose. That was like from her heartbreak and from her depression and everything. It all came out. She didn't realize she was doing it until later on. And as soon as she realized she was hurting people, she stopped. She's not a villain. Okay, let's not target my queen. Let's just dial it down a bit.
Will tell us. But I honestly think that the Sokovia Accords, they were like supported by so many different countries. So it wasn't just the US government, which I think was a big problem. It was that it was supported by so many different countries. And it was all about like public safety, because a lot of people were thinking that the Avengers were they weren't a good bunch. Because after Sokovia and then the events that happened in Nigeria, with Wakandans being killed who were there for relief aid, it didn't look good. And then we see what happened, like King T'Chaka dies in Civil War, and then Black Panther goes for revenge and everything. And then it all set off the thing. I'm just saying that there has to be some sort of regulation and rules put in place that will make sure that everybody is looked after.
I agree. But at the same time, as soon as they signed those accords, that was it for them. They have to follow everything that they do. Every order they put into is going to be completely for the government, and that's it. Anything that they do is all under complete restricted thing, but that could prevent them from saving people in the future, and they could be used against in like wars and stuff, because that way they're government property. They're not their own people anymore.
But it's not the government, it's the United Nations. It's loads of different countries say that literally Captain America does everything just for one guy. He just does it for Bucky. I'm not saying Bucky doesn't deserve it, but he lets Bucky get away with so much. And I'm not saying Bucky is at fault because he was brainwashed, but he has to understand that he can't always just support his friend. That whole thing with Civil War was just about one person. It wasn't about anything else. He didn't seem to care about the fact that the events of Sokovia, that is basically what started off. And I'm not saying Sokovia was Captain America's fault, because it was the whole Ultron thing, which came from a good place because it was supposed to help the world, wasn't it? And we do see later on, like Avengers Infinity War, like the purpose, and Tony has PTSD and all of that, so I think it did, like he just I just think Captain America just needed to,
because there was towards Captain America for saving his friend.
I'm just saying he caused a civil war just to save one guy.
Okay, but that just one guy is the only thing he has left from his past life. It's his complete best friend and an innocent person, so he's doing it for the good reasons. If he knew he was guilty and it wasn't him, then he wouldn't have supported him. But he knows that it wasn't him. He knows he was brainwashed. He knows he's back now. He knows the toll it's had on him, and we've seen that in the Winter Soldier and Falcon, We've seen how bad it was like affecting him and how he's trying to do well now. And now if Cap hadn't supported him back then and been the one person that believed in him and was there to fight for him and show that he was good, we could have had another villain.
I agree.
But he chose to choose the good side and work for it and do well. But if he didn't have Cap supporting him that whole way, things could have gone downhill very quickly.
But the point is, during that time where they were finding that that villain, he lied behind Tony's back about
Yes, exactly. He literally lied to Tony. Tony sees the footage and Captain America just stands there. He just lets it. He doesn't even comfort him or anything. And then Tony asks him one question, did you know? And what did he say? He said no. And then what does Tony say? Tell me the truth. And then he says it. And didn't Captain America say, my teammates, like, what was it? They don't always tell me the truth, or they don't always tell me stuff. I think that's what was said in Avengers Age of Ultron. And then what do we see? Literally, Captain America, who is supposedly one of Tony's best friends, and who Tony actually sees as a friend, which I actually don't think Captain America even saw him as a friend. I just feel like there wasn't that thing. And the whole thing about Avengers Infinity War, you know, I think the Avengers would have had a chance. I think because they split, or because of the Winter Soldier, that whole thing led to the bad chaos that happened in Avengers Infinity War. And then we see that whole thing, Avengers Endgame, where even still then, Tony and Captain America aren't still on like good terms. Like when Tony comes back to Earth, we can see how distraught and upset he is, because he's suffering. He sees that losing Spider-Man, who was like his basically kind of his son. He's like really distraught and he's upset. And Tony just wants to, you know, make stuff right. He just wants to make sure that everybody's safe. Like he's like at the beginning of Iron Man, we see that he's like really selfish and he's all about, you know, just about himself. But actually, later on in the film, we actually see that he's like willing to make sacrifices, which is literally what he did in Avengers. And then that's what he did in Avengers Endgame. Like, and then what did Captain America do? He just held Thor's hammer, swung it about, and that was it. Like Tony did most of the stuff. And
slow down.
Sorry. And that vision that Iron Man had in Avengers Age of Ultron, the one that Scarlet Witch gave him, he saw that his teammates were all dying, and he knew that was gonna happen, and that did happen. I mean, maybe not to Captain America, but it did happen. And then what does Captain America say? Says, you could have saved us. Then after that, he wants to make sure that everybody's protected. He wants to look after everybody. He knew that the Sokovia Accords were going to be that way. He knew that they weren't going to be great because, you know, everybody wants their freedom. But he knew that this was going to be for the greater good, because after he goes through and presents the bath technology, a woman comes up and she goes, my son was killed. And that really does shake Tony. And we do see that he wants to actually make amends. He wants to actually make sure that the same stuff doesn't happen, because Sokovia caused so many people to die. The Battle of New York, so much destruction. Like, some of this is to do with the government. But what we see is the Sokovia Accords aren't just about the US government, which there is a lot of corruption about. It's about a lot of countries, 117 different countries coming together. Sorry, I think I went off a tangent there.
Researched and gone on a tangent about how much she hates Captain America. And yes, I do agree. Tony was doing it for his reasons, but Cap was also doing it for his. I'm not saying that Tony's a bad guy, okay? We see that he's a good guy in the end. We see that he's the hero. He sacrifices himself to save everyone else. Okay, sorry, twice.
It should really be Captain America, truly.
Yeah, it should have been. I was really angry when at the end, because I think Tony, like in Avengers Endgame, we actually see him having a happy ever after, and then all of a sudden he finds out that there is a way to bring everybody back, and he risks that. He knows that it might go not good, and that is what happens. And then his daughter is left alone, and yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, here's something that King T'Chaka said: "Our people's blood is spilled on foreign soil, not only because of the actions of criminals, but by the indifference of those pledged to stop them. Victory at the expense of the innocent is no victory at all." And I feel like that is actually such a good thing to say, because I think that really does support the fact that the Sokovia Accords or something like that, some sort of rule, something to make sure that the Avengers are accountable for their actions, is put in place. And then Black Widow even says, "We have made some very public mistakes. We need to win their trust back." And this is a way, because what is it? Avengers, the first movie, at the end, we see that some people are really happy that they're all safe. And then there are going to be other people that are like, can we actually trust them? We don't know that much about them. Like Captain America, like everybody had probably like forgotten about him at that stage. He like come out of the ice, 80 years after or something.
Yeah, and I agree with what you're saying, but again, with T'Challa's quote, he's saying that what's the risk if we're like with the innocence and everything, but Bucky is innocent, and that's why he didn't sign the Accords, because he knew it would get his friend in trouble. And if Bucky's innocent, then he's going against T'Challa's quote. But he probably, I reckon if Bucky wasn't in the situation he was in, Cap would have signed the Accords. But he knew what was at risk, and he knew it was going to affect Wanda as well. If they had signed those Accords, Wanda would have been in complete lockdown. She would have lost everything because of that one mistake and her trying to learn her powers and her actions. And you could see the guilt it was taking on her anyway, but they would have locked her away anyways.
No, they wouldn't have been locked away.
They would. She was already locked away.
It would have been the Avengers compound, which actually looked really nice. Like it looked like a really big area.
But she's still locked away from society because people were seeing her as a monster, which is
maybe not forever. I mean, the first thing is that she's not even a citizen, isn't it? That is one of the main concerns. She isn't a citizen. And then the other thing is that she was initially a villain. Can you trust someone who's a villain? I mean, I'm not saying that we shouldn't trust Wanda, because, you know, she is a really good person. And we do see that, even though WandaVision went a bit, you know.
She went a bit
different.
Crazy. She might be a villain in the future, but at the end of the day, she fought for the right side. But she was still as in like Endgame and stuff. She wasn't with Thanos. She chose to save the world. Okay, she chose to be a hero. She chose to join the Avengers, but you never would have seen any of that. She never would have justified her being a villain if she didn't choose Cap's side and didn't get set free from her lockdown.
No,
because whether it's a jail
I think she would have been
cell
happy. It wasn't a jail cell. It was the Avengers
I'm
compound.
saying whether
it was so nice in there. She would have been happy in there with like Vision and stuff. Like, you know.
Yes, but you could see that she wasn't. As soon as Hawkeye was like, you can come out, you can come justify yourself, show people you're not a monster. She wanted to do that because she was sitting there, and even though she wasn't in a jail cell physically, she was mentally, because she was sitting there thinking, I'm sitting here doing nothing. Everyone's out there, you know, getting everyone's trust back, and I'm sitting here after I've just made all these mistakes, hiding away and being the monster they think I am.
But don't you think it would have been a good idea if she'd stayed in for a while at least? Because Tony did say that the Accords could be amended, that this was just
but that doesn't mean they would have been. And in
because
that moment,
they probably Tony has a lot of influence. He would do something. I'm sure about that. He would do something about
that time that it would have taken to amend it. She would have been taken away. She would have been locked away. They would have taken her
away
completely.
She would have been at the compound.
The government, I don't think she would have, because once they would have got her as a weapon. That would have been it. She would have lost the same with the rest of them. They would have lost all of their freedom and everything. So she would have been taken to wherever they needed her to be. So they could have run tests on her, and she'd already had that all done to her in the past. So she saw a way where she could actually have freedom, where she wasn't locked away. She could be herself. She could have a life with Vision, like she wanted, you know, just anywhere where she could just go and be her own person.
So are you saying that Wanda and Bucky are worth more protecting than the whole entire world, which is what the Sokovia Accords were going to do. Because it really does sound like Captain America just wanted to save 2 people. And what did Tony want to save? Oh, let me think. The whole world. Which one should you do?
With the government, with the Sokovia Accords, then they can only work, they can only fight when they are given permission by the government. Captain America, on the other hand, think if they're allowed to, just for themselves, to do whatever they want. Now that's saying like if there was a robbery gone wrong and someone sent the whole army to capture them, that's the kind of thing. If you send the wrong type of force to a wrong situation, that's what I think Captain America kind of missed. It depends on like the fight that you're sending a whole group. If you send a group of heroes who are probably more powerful than the US Army, then it's the type of like force that you're gonna get them to. Will there be more chaos? Will they overpower them? Or is it the time that's gonna cause more chaos for more people than it should have been? And if you think about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like I said about Captain America, he only fights based on his God, what he thinks is right, what he thinks is for free will, how he thinks is right for himself. I think that's kind of like for the new Captain America in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. If he say like kills someone and he thinks is right because he thinks that's justice, that's not for him to decide. That's for the government. That's not his choice, if you know what I mean. So if the Avengers or Captain America decide on their free will who to fight, who to kill, what would that be?
But they never done that.
No, but if they have, that's the point.
Yeah.
That's what they fear. That's what all the governments fear. If they went to somewhere that's not needed for them, or it's gonna cause more harm, that has to stop. That's why the Sokovia Accords exist. There's types of laws and types of boundaries that can't be trespassed.
Just coming at the end of that, you did say that there should be some sort of regulation, but what regulations then? Who would put it? It was Cap gonna check on everybody and gonna go, oh no, that's not a good thing. Like, it's not possible. Someone has to. But who would you want to put in charge? I think the fact that it wasn't just the US government, it was the UN, it was 117 different countries coming together who, they would decide, they would come together and go, oh, we should give aid to, let's say, Nigeria. Oh, we should do this. Oh, there are some people, bad people in England or something. I don't know. Like, they would decide together, like, okay, so maybe sometimes the decisions wouldn't be good, but I'm pretty sure majority of the time it would have been good. And I just feel like there needed to be someone to keep them in check. And I think the Sokovia Accords were the perfect thing because they were supported by so many different countries. It wasn't just one.
And I get that everyone was under that impression. Everyone was like, okay, let's all do this. But as soon as they sign that there are weapons, any country that wasn't under that or any country that goes against it, they could have been used as a weapon towards them or whoever's got main rule of the Avengers, because at the end of the day, they weren't going to stay everyone's thing. Someone's going to end up corrupting it and they'll take the Avengers for themselves, kind of thing. So they could have used it in war and then they would have won straight away. They could have used it to take power over different countries and nations and anything that was below them, and they could have used them and they would have had no choice against that.
Yeah, but the fact is, we didn't actually even hear so much about the Sokovia Accords. Like, we only hear that there are Sokovia Accords and that's it. We don't actually hear like what are the Accords. That's all we find out. And Cap didn't even have a look at it. He didn't even see what was written. Maybe there was more free will. We don't know. We'll never know
if there wasn't either.
Well, that's the thing. We don't know. I feel like that would have helped.
Exactly.
But because Cap literally was just like straight up like, no, like read it for God's sake and make a decision. Don't just, just go for it.
So I think we've agreed to disagree. Both sides have had their good points. It got preheated. Emily's in a timeout because it's now midnight and I'm pretty sure she was screaming the house down, but okay. So yeah, that was it with our debate today, I guess. I'm sure this debate's gonna last for a very long time after this because it always comes up.
We hope you enjoyed our first ever debate. Let us know in the comments who won and whose side you're on. Was it Team Iron Man or Team Captain America? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with our content. See you next time for our first ever debate on Disney. Bye.
Bye.